So, my friend, I want to ask you, have you been listening to some of my podcasts for a while and identified for yourself all the areas that you feel your business could be better in? Maybe you just are so busy you haven't yet mastered the working as much as you like bit. Or maybe you're just not bringing in the money, like you're struggling with the income, or it's just not enough. Well, it's time for us to have a conversation. In the show notes, there is a link to my evolution call. If you're a dance boss and you are ready to take action, let's have a chat and let's see where I can take you. Hello and welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. We have got the lovely Heather Buelow with us today, and we have got so much value. We are talking about company culture, dance school culture, and kind of what some of the key reasons are that we need to understand culture, how to create it, how to fix it, like everything around basically turning your studio into your dream studio, isn't it, Heather?
Definitely. I am also very excited about this topic. I kind of like eat, sleep, breathe it, and you almost have to when you're a studio owner so that you can establish exactly what you said, what you want your studio to be. So this is very exciting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a little chat before we came on about some of the kind of the bullet points things that we're going to talk about. And you're way more organized than me today because you've already made a lot of gorgeous notes. So where would you like to start with this, Heather, today?
I think right at the beginning, let's define what studio culture is, first off, because if you don't know, then we're going to be in trouble. So, and I mean, this is my kind of take on it, and you can totally adapt it. And I hope that you put into, and I feel like you probably have some words of wisdom around this topic as well. But for me, culture really kind of centers around our core values, which I'll share ours little. Like I literally wear them all the time. They're on my shirts, they're everywhere, they're on my walls. The energy that you portray. We know that I'm a very energetic person and I'm very high energy, and my studio feels like that. And that's what works for us. Your traditions. So that's something that's really amazing too. And a lot of times that's not thought of as being kind of culture, but if you've been doing something for so long and it's part of your studio, that's part of your culture. And I love the traditions, especially I find with a lot of people in your company, Deb, have been passed down from it was my mom's studio. It was my studio owners. And it was like a pass down of generations. So there's probably so many amazing traditions in there. And then kind of the last thing around it is behaviors. So which is you're like, what? But kind of like how parents act, how students act, how teachers act within your walls. And then also like maybe when you go to competitions or shows or in your community, how is the behavior, the attitudes, the feelings being portrayed about your studio?
Yeah. And so what I think of, and I think you'll agree, Heather, when we talk about our culture and our values, the first thing I think about is this is just an extension of you, the person. Like, I don't know about you. Well, you've already just said it, you're a very high energy person. That's one of your values, and I did a little exercise where I had a business coach once that kind of took me through a therapy session that basically elicited all my values as a person, not as a business, but as a person out of me. And when I looked at them all, like literally this bunch of words written on a piece of paper, I was like, that's everything that I have in my school. Like they were literally the same things, like the ethos, the behaviors, the energy, the vibe. It was everything that was important to me as a person was also showing up in my business. And therefore, my business was just an extension of me. And if you can create this so that it is completely aligned with your own personal set of values, then oh my gosh, business is just going to be one big happy place, right?
It's the clarity of it. All your decisions are going to run from this, and it's going to be easier to make decisions. Should I do this? Should I do not? Does it align with my core values? No. Okay, then we're not doing that. Easy, done. Is this something that makes me feel good, makes my staff feel good? Yes, then let's do it. It definitely is like it's like your mapping system. It helps guide you on your way.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when people get this wrong, and we'll talk about this as we go on, but one of the main reasons I see where people get this wrong is when they try to people please, and we're all people pleasers. You're a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. But so much so that they start to put other people's values and wants and desires before what they want for their own studio. And I think sometimes that's where the values and the culture gets a little bit lost, a little bit watered down, a little bit disingenuous. Like I think it's so important that you stay strong. Like probably the most important thing, isn't it, in business, that we stay strong with in terms of boundaries and where we expect everybody to behave.
Yeah, and it's so easy to take that right turn off of your path because they say like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I don't know if that's a saying there, but the parents that are in your ear, you tend to like, I mean, it might just be one, and there's like 50 other ones over here happy, but you tend to cater to that one because they're in your ear. So yeah, you have to stay strong. Um, I think too, kind of like leaving what is studio culture, like a big thing is what people say about your studio when you're not in the room.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like if you're not there, are they talking about your teachers in a positive way? Are they talking about the new program that you're bringing? Are they talking about how happy their kid is and making friends and how, all that? Or are they sitting nitpicking? Are they talking about all the things they don't like about your studio? Are they talking about your studio in a negative way? Like that's not okay. So what happens when you're not in the room kind of really defines your culture. And if that is really bad and negative, you need to realize that I have a problem and it's going to fester and it's going to get bigger. And that's what we need to nip in the butt.
Yeah. And actually, off the back of this is a really great exercise that people can do. Ask people outside of your studio, if you were to think about the Deborah Laws Dance Academy, what would you say about it? Or if you even ask your own customers, like ask your own students and families, what do you think we stand for? What do you think our values are? Because I actually come across very few people, Heather, that are really big on this and really shout about their values to the extent that everybody in the school knows what they are, can reel them off. Like that they are on the walls, they are on the t-shirts, everybody knows your company saying or your strap line. Like not everybody's great at this. They might have done an exercise once where they came up with their values, and then even sometimes the dance studio and can't remember what they are. So if the big boss lady can't remember what they are, then how are the teachers going to know them, and how are the students and parents going to know? How is the general public going to know them, right? So if they're not super clear for everybody, they can really easily just kind of get watered down and lost. But a really great way to find out is ask your students and your parents, what do you think we're all about? When you think of our dance studio, what springs to mind? And what we want is either the exact values or ones very similar. If they start coming up with something completely different, then you're really in trouble, right?
That's so true. It's so true. And is it that hard to do? Is it that hard to get your core values as part of how you run your business? Maybe at the start a little bit, but then once it's there and it's easy, and like I said, it guides you and it guides your parents, and they're going to know how to respond better. They're going to know how to come to you with questions because maybe communication is one of your core values, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, she says that's her core value, I'm going to come talk to her about this issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think sometimes actually we do all have these values. We do all have this specific energy or vibe or aura about ourselves and our school. It's all there. If you've had a school for 30 plus years and you've never thought about your values, I promise you they're in your business. It's
Yeah.
just that you've maybe not pulled them out, named them, labeled them, given them a nice, strap line. You've maybe just not talked about them. You've not expressed them. You've not told everybody that that's what they are. But I guarantee if you've got a lovely school and it's been running for years and years beautifully, your values are very strong and everybody loves them. So what would be the point, Heather, in actually having them as words, having them on a t-shirt? Like, why do we need to go to that next level where we actually talk about them and print them? And like, what's the point of that?
Yeah. So culture really has a hand in hand with retention. And as a studio owner, retention is key. You want your students to stay from when they come to you in a baby till when they're in the cap and gown and graduate. That's your ideal client, is that one that stays forever. So culture really, really helps with retention, and it shows you where you're going wrong with retention as well too. Parents and dancers, they're going to stay where they feel connected, where they feel valued, and where they feel seen. Oh, that was hard for me to say. So connected, valued, and seen. Those are huge. Everyone just wants to be seen, like, and acknowledged. And if you're doing that easily, your front of the house staff, your admin, you know, welcoming them with maybe their first name, hi Susie, I'm glad you're here today, ready to dance, or oh, you guys just got married. That right as soon as they walk in, they're feeling seen and valued. And that's kind of what starts it all, because your clients are your best form of advertising or your demise. So if they feel loved, they feel seen, they're going to love and boast about your studio to other people. And that's what's going to keep people coming through the door and staying in the door, is that buzz about your studio and the good talking behind your back. We don't want them talking behind our back, but if they're gonna, I hope it's good. And so if you can create this culture where they feel safe, where they feel that their kids are safe, where they see like a plan of what is guided all of our decisions, then they're going to be like, yeah, this is our home. And they might even be like, this is not for us. And that's good. That's okay. It's so hard for us to let go of students, like, as a studio owner, but if it's not the right fit, it is going to cause so many problems. And if the parents can acknowledge that this is not the right fit, and you're be like, you know what, you're so right, here's another studio I suggest, go ahead, we hope maybe one day it changes or whatever, but we support your decision. That's one of the hardest things, is to realize that it might not be the right fit for everyone, but that just makes room for more ideal customers that it is the right fit for.
Absolutely. And I think it's really hard, isn't it, when you're first starting out? Because I remember the days when I was like, number 44. Now I've got 45. Like, I remember counting every single student like they were, some go out and celebrate, let's go out and have a meal, I've got another student. Like, everyone was so precious. And so when I lost one, it was like the end of the world. And I would have, in those very, very early days, I would have like held on to every student and bent over backwards and people please, just to try not to lose people. But of course, more mature, more knowledgeable, been around the block a few times, Deborah, now is like, yeah, if they're not going to be happy with all the lovely things that I'm producing and delivering for my students because they want something else that I don't do, that I don't want to do, have no desire to do, then it's a shame that I don't get to the 46. But at the same time, do I want a parent in my school that is constantly unhappy, constantly vocal about the fact that they don't get this and they don't get that? We never said we were going to give them those things in the first place, but the fact that that's what they thought they were going to get, or that's what they wanted to get, like, we just don't need those bad apples. They're so damaging to us, sleepless nights for us. They're damaging to our well-being. They're damaging to the rest of the energy in the school. Like, they can bring parents into that mindset with them.
They do. They want that because they need people to agree with them. And because you don't agree with them, then they're going to be trying to reach out to other parents. And then that's not good.
Not good at
Yeah.
all. Yeah. So, I mean, I think for those of you that are in this situation at the moment where you might be, and sometimes I have people say, oh, but Deborah, they're a family of 3, and between them they do like 15 classes. And I'm literally like, that's a real shame, but I don't care. like, let them go. I know it's a lot of money, but no amount of money is worth having a bad apple in your school. And you can replace that. You can replace that income. You can't replace easily your reputation if someone's managed to damage that.
Or it's very hard to, yeah, exactly. That is very key. So I think, so obviously then we just identified why it's so important, right? That we want it to be well known, and then it helps with people with their reasoning of staying. They're going to stay long. Their lifetime value is higher, and then your staff are happier too, because the students that are teaching, they want to be there and they're wanting to be part of this family. If it's okay, I thought we would also talk about kind of like how do you do this?
Yeah.
You're talking about it, Heather and Deb, you're talking about it now as a studio owner that maybe I don't know what my core values are. I don't know what my culture is. How do I start? How do I get this to go? So we can probably maybe bounce across a couple ideas on how a studio owner can start to do this. And like you said, they probably already have some things in there, and they're not really like naming it. And so that's kind of where you have to start. And when I did mine, I did it with my staff at one of our staff meetings. I said, okay, guys, I want to have core values that I can say, these are our core values. This is what represents us. I want to name it. I know it's happening, but I want to name it. And so I had a big wall. We were in one of our studios, and I brought out little sticky notes, pieces of paper. And I said, I want you to write down words that you think describe the studio and your classrooms and everything. So they would write like creative, passionate, inspiring, everything that they can think of. I'm like, the more the merrier. So we ended up with this wall full of stickies. And then I was just going through, and I was just like, okay, I need you to go and find one sticky that you love and put it on this wall. So then we downsized a little bit. So we had 20 staff. So, and then I had 20 stickies over there. And there was some that was the same. And I was like, oh, look, there's 5 of them that say passionate. Okay, guys, we're going to take passionate and put it there. So together as a team, we built passionate, dedicated, inspire, community, family. Those are our core values that we run everything by. And because they were a part of it, they feel it, they live it, they acknowledge it. And so once you kind of decide on it, then the next step is to get your teachers on board with it. And by doing that kind of in the first step, they're really on board, involving them in there. And so that, because the teachers for you are your front line. They're the ones in there. As a studio owner, I still teach a lot, but as a studio owner, your goal is to kind of, most times step back and you're not in the classroom. So your teachers need to be eat, sleep, breathing these core values, because they're the ones that are bringing it into the classrooms. So we train it in our staff meetings. Every staff meeting we have, there's a portion of it that I do something with our core values. It changes every time. They don't know, but I train it for sure.
I am just going to pause here for a second, because I just want to check that you know all about my new software, Dance Business Solutions. And if you don't, then I would love to show it to you. You can book a demo where I will show you around the magic that I have created in Dance Business Solutions, and you can see just what it will do for your business. So from websites to selling events to managing your customers, managing your inquiries, creating surveys, planning your social media, like, it does a gazillion things. And they're all very exciting because I have pre-built most of it for you already, using my wisdom and expertise as a dance business coach. So go to dancebusinesssolutions.com as soon as you've finished listening to my podcast and click on book a demo. And I cannot wait for one of my team to show you around. And so what things do you do to train it? Like, can you give us an example of how you would train the values with your teams?
Yeah. So like this staff meeting, we have a staff meeting on Wednesday. So I'm taking each of the core values. They're all going to be like in different pods of the core value, and we're going to break down that core value. So passionate. What does it mean to be passionate? And then they're going to kind of talk about it, and they're going to represent passionate in our staff meeting. And then so you can do things like that where you break it down, you talk about it. Or I could be like, hey, what are some things you've done in the past 3 months that align with our core values? That it kind of like was like a core value shout out. And then they'll tell us, and everyone will be like, oh, that's such a great idea. I'm doing that in my class. So talking about it that way too. Also every year they get a staff shirt from me. And so this year it says has a couple other words on it that aren't our core values, but it says something like motivate, create, and then the big word says inspire, which is one of our core values. So they're going to wear it. So that's like our big one this year. I'm going to center around being inspired. I want us to inspire our dancers and take them to the next level. So just talking about it, just having it in your conversation.
Yeah. And I love that. I love this idea. So, you've picked up one of the values that's on their t-shirt for this year. And, next year, it might well be a different one of the values. And so then it's quite fun. Which t-shirt do we get this year? Which value are we going to kind of really step up with this year? I love that idea. And just another little exercise that you guys can do with your teachers in your team meetings. I created something one year on a team retreat where I had little slips of paper, and on the paper I put like a situation or a scenario, and I folded them up and I put them inside an egg, because it was around Easter that we did this. Those plastic eggs that you can kind of buy and you stick chocolates in around Easter time. And everybody had to pick an egg, and then they stood up and they announced what the scenario was, and then they had to discuss how they would approach that scenario using one of our core values. So I think one of the scenarios was, because obviously we're very heavy, a lot of the schools in the UK are very heavy on exams. And so one of the scenarios was, you've given out exam forms to all the students that are taking an exam, and you've got a parent comes up to you at the end of class and says, how come my child hasn't had an exam form? Like, why are they not being entered? So then the question was, how would you respond to that parent? How would you deal with that situation? But it has to be based on one of our values. And then they would talk about how they would respond. And what I love about this whole values thing for your team is it becomes the way in which it's like something for them to fall back on. Like, nobody can argue with the values of the school. So in that scenario with the exam child and the piece of paper, I was like, well, you could embrace our word confidence, because confidence is one of our values. And so she went into a whole spiel about, it's so important for us in the dance school that we build a child's confidence, not that we knock a child's confidence. And because they're not quite ready for their exam, if they went ahead and did it now, it would actually probably knock their confidence rather than build them up. So we'd rather wait until we feel they're ready, so that we can really bolster that confidence and help them to grow. What parent can turn around and say, well, I don't agree with
You're so right. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
It's like the end. That's it. End of the story. But if your team have got those values in their answers and their replies and how they deal with situations, they just can't lose. Like, it's like, and also this is what Heather would say. This is what Deborah would say, because this is part of our company. And so I think they're a really good thing for the team to know, not just because we want to build confidence and we want to be thinking about that and have that at the forefront, but because we also need that sometimes when we're talking with parents and customers, to kind of help us, not out of sticky situations, but just knowing how to act and behave.
Yeah. I know. I love when my staff are like, I just sounded like Miss Heather there. And I was like, yes, good. Because I rule by my core values. So if you're sounding like me, that's what we want. Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely like a really good way to start to build culture in your studio is through your staff. The next thing, I would say is probably actually kind of going back to traditions and rituals or things that you do every year and that maybe are a little bit different than the studio down the road. We do welcome socials because community and family are part of our core values. So we want to bring everyone together to start off the year and like big family hug. That's important to us. We do first day photos, that tradition, that ritual, because we want them to be seen, and then we do dancer of the week. We do different recitals. We do recital traditions. We do grad videos. We really celebrate our grads. That's part of our culture. That's family. So things that you're doing already, you just keep doing those and then just put a little core value twist on them. This is kind of why, just even in your own mindset. Oh, this is why we do them. And then the next thing to kind of keep it going, implementing it into your studio would be communication. So whether that's your core value or not, how you communicate your core values to your parents is going to be important. Maybe your first email out on how the studio is going to run, the very last thing where it says, kind regards, Miss Heather, then maybe underneath my little 5 core values are going to be at the bottom. Maybe I put that as my email tag. And so those core values are on every email. Maybe they're on the walls. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're on a shirt. Maybe they're in a newsletter where you focus on a core value that month, but they're starting to see, hear, say it themselves. And then it starts to kind of trickle down from me to my teachers. Now it's starting to get to the parents. And then in the classrooms, it'll start to get to the children and stuff like that too. So everyone should be very well aware.
Yeah. And I read a book once. There's a book called The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. I don't know if you've read this book. It's all about building company culture. It's a fantastic book. And he talked about the fact that he knows of a restaurateur who has embroidered and stitched it into the collar of every polo shirt. So as they get dressed and they put their head into the shirt, every time they see their values. Like, I thought that was genius. And I also heard about, I think it was the same restaurant had them all embroidered on the aprons, all on their aprons. So like, it's just it being everywhere, isn't it? And everybody's seeing it. But another thing that I did with my students, this is going to the student level of the imprinting the values, is we used to have postcards, and we called them wow cards. And the wow cards used to have our values on them. And if a student did something in class or outside of class, in the corridor, wherever, that I felt or a teacher felt really embraced one of our values, then we would give them a wow card. We would circle the card, the value, and then there was a little space where we could leave a comment that the child took home for her parent. Today, little Sarah really helped embrace a new student that was feeling a bit lonely, and this really embraced our care value, and our kids got to the stage that they started to collect them. They're like collectibles, like they wanted a wow card for like every value. And so that's almost a little incentive for them to really embrace what the values were. So that's another possibility, or something similar to that.
And you be sure mama's going to put it on the fridge, and she's going to take a picture and she's going to post it on social media, and it's going to be out there. And you literally just said good job, but because you went the extra mile and because your core values are around there, yep, it's going to be circulating on Facebook or Instagram, and that is exactly what you want and how your culture carries through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great idea. Okay, let's talk about where we can go wrong.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
because if we don't identify it, it could happen. And then, yeah, so let's talk about the pitfalls. You actually kind of brought one up at the start where you try to be everything for everyone. Kind of what we were talking about is really that people pleasing. I think that's probably number one for studio owners, because our hearts are we're so passionate. I have not found a studio owner that isn't passionate and all in, right? And so you want to make sure everyone's journey is amazing and spectacular, which it should be. But then it's that, like we were talking about, the bad apples. So definitely you need to set your boundaries and guide your boundaries from your your values. You can't let those negative parents like erode the culture and upset it. And so you have to unfortunately deal with it, and you can use that as when you need to have a parent meeting and just be like, listen, what's going on here does not align with our studio. Here's our core values. We've told you about them. We're very open about them. You're not working, here's what needs to happen. So it's that those parents, it's mostly the parents than the kids, not,
Yeah.
kind of respecting. It could be a student though too. And then the same thing has to happen where you sit down and be like, is this fixable? Can we be in line with other students and lead by that?
And I think
Yes.
sometimes it is fixable. I mean, not in all cases, obviously, but most of the time it is. And actually, you know, most of the time it's fixable, because what's gone wrong is that you haven't stuck clearly to those boundaries around your values, which you just mentioned. And therefore, although, yes, it's the students or the parents that are overstepping the line, this is where it's a little bit like, oh, thanks, Deborah, that was a bit of a slap in the face. But sometimes it's because we weren't actually clear enough and strong enough on what those were. Somebody said to me, a great business coach said to me once, everything that goes wrong in your business is a leadership issue. It's the business owner's issue. And I was like, oh, ouch, that stings a little bit. And they're like, everything comes from the top. If you allow parents to misbehave, so to speak, to overstep the values, to not behave in a way you want them to, then it's because you didn't lead with a strong enough sense of those core values and your culture. And so it's hard. This is a really hard thing I find to coach, Heather, because being an ex-examiner, I used to go into a lot of dance schools and I would see, hear, smell, pick up the energy the minute I walked in of what the school was like, what it stood for, what its values were. And sometimes I would see behavior, or just kind of get a feeling that maybe this wasn't such a healthy environment. And I had a teacher once that said to me, I'm really struggling with my parents because they this and they that, and they moan about these things, and I don't know how to turn them around. And it's really hard to coach someone on that, because at the end of the day, it was her fault. It was her fault that the parents are behaving like that. It was her fault they were like that in the first place. Like, I ran a studio for 25 years. I never once had a parent I had to ask them to leave. I never once had a parent that didn't respect our values. And I'm not saying that I was really good at this, but I do know I had very strong boundaries around respect and what was and what wasn't okay. And so very often when it's going wrong, I'm so sorry if you're listening and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I think she's right. I think it's me. Like, very
I'm
often
in it. Yeah.
it does come down to the person at the top that's allowing this to happen, doesn't it?
Yep. And it's hard. Like, yeah, like you said, it would be hard to backtrack and get out of there. It's not impossible. But again, like when you're trying to fix what you did, you need to look on the inside out. Am I leading with what I'm saying? Am I just saying things and not doing it, not acting on it? Yeah. I think that's a really nice lead into the next pitfall would be not correcting your teachers who don't live the values and teach the values. So if you are kind of witnessing that you have one or two teachers that, you know, really aren't teaching with passion, they're not inspiring, I'm going through my core values, they're not creating communities within their group, I would be like, okay, there's a problem here. Love this teacher, nothing wrong with her, but not really fitting in the studio, not coming to our community events, not coming to our staff meetings. That's not an option, but not, like not being part of that. And so if you don't correct that, that's going to start your landslide, because it starts with me, then it goes to my teachers. So if you're already falling apart on your tier 2 of core values, you have a problem. And then with that, which this is almost more common than that happening, because usually the teachers are kind of all in, unless you have one that, and it might open your eyes that teacher is not actually a fit for your studio. which we sometimes we hold on to them for way too long. I know you know this because I know from coaching, right? You're like, maybe it's time to let that person go, and they hang on for another year and they're like, we should have listened to you, Deb. It's easy when you're trying to decide if a person is a fit for your studio or not. Bring out your core values. Are they aligned with your studio core values? If you're like, no, 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 what are you doing? Why are they there? You can't retrain someone if it's so far from the truth. But then if you ignore staff burnout also, that has a negative effect on your studio culture, because when a teacher is burnt out and tired and too much on her plate or his plate, they're not going to be leading with their core values. They're just trying to survive. They're just trying to get here, get it done, and that. So maybe they have the core values in them and they want to, but they're just too burnt out. And if you can't see that and can't realize it, you're going to lose a good person as
Yeah.
opposed to having let go of one that's not there. So those
Yeah.
are kind of like the two pitfalls that have to do with your staff.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, as you're saying that, it's making me think, this applies to the studio owner as well. If you're burnt out and you're super tired and you're all those things, then how are you leading the whole of the rest of your army with these values? So it kind of goes through everyone, doesn't it? Making sure that there's the self-care for us, for your team, for your students, so that the whole thing can feel like it's harmonious. I think harmony is the biggest thing here. And the harmony in your studio might look very different to harmony in another studio, but it is about having the environment in which everybody flourishes, where they feel like it's their place. And when you are in the wrong place trying to flourish, it's just not going to happen. And then that goes back to what we've already said about, not everybody is a right fit for everybody, and that's okay. We have to acknowledge that and be okay with that. So let's just assume then, as we sort of kind of wrap this up, that we're very clear on our values. We have t-shirts, cards, bags, murals, cars, like everything is everywhere. We do great training with our team. They can, recite it in their sleep. They work on imparting that in their students, in their teaching, in what they teach. The kids are all over it. Everybody embraces your values. How does this work? How does it feel when you sell your school, or when you step out of your school, or when you retire from your school? Like, I feel like it all gets wrapped up in a beautiful word called legacy.
Mm.
And it's legacy that you leave behind, because when people talk about your studio and someone that has built their empire and then sold their empire, and left it behind for someone else, I look back now and I don't think about this event we did, or this set of exams, or how much money the school earned, or how many kids I got. I look back and I think about what value I had to people. What did I give those people? And it all boils down to those core values. That's what I left behind. That's what I gave everyone. And that's why it's quite special, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't even imagine selling my studio. I'm still in it, but I'm like, if I did, I would hope that the person that I sold it to wouldn't want to come in here and be like, I'm changing everything. Everything's going to change. How we do things is going to change. I would hope that my legacy is so beautiful and so strong that these traditions will carry on, that our core values, maybe they want to add one, change one, it works more with them, but that foundation that we built is still there. And that's all you can hope for. And whether it be me, or whether it be, the family that had someone start when they were 2, and then the ownership changed over when they were 8, is their journey going to be the same? Is it going to be so different? It can't be so different. They're not going to stay because they've stayed so long because of what it is. So hopefully too, when someone buys a business, that they acknowledge that if there's a thriving dance studio and the culture is beautiful and how everyone acts and everything, Why would you go in and be like, no, 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 no? No, you can change it and make it your own, but you have to carry on that path
Yeah.
of continuing those values and that culture and the tradition. And that's what's so beautiful. And I think that's what works with when the families are handing it down. The younger daughter's like, okay, mom's gonna start to use emails now. Like, there's upgrades and there's things you can do, but that tradition of ice cream sundae on day after recital needs to stay because everyone talks about that every year. You don't get rid of that. That stays. And so hopefully the things that we've done that are the good parts of my studio, there's been some ups and downs, but hopefully the ups will continue on and be memories. Remember that time? Remember that? I love that when I hear that too.
And I think that's a really nice a nice end actually to this whole topic.
Mhm.
Because I think if you are looking at buying a studio or purchasing a studio or taking over from someone, and it's kind of a good opportunity and the books all stack up and the location's in the right place and you can afford it. If all those things work, really look up, but what is the ethos in the school currently? What is the core values? What is the culture within the school? And does that align with me? Because it's not saying that it's wrong, but if it's very different, how easy is that going to be for me to step into this business?
Hard. Yeah. Yeah, definitely harder. Yeah.
Well, what a wonderful subject. I hope this has
I know.
helped some people.
See, it's so fun. It's not as scary as people think. It's so fun. And you're already doing it. You are already doing it. You just have to acknowledge it and scream it from the rooftops.
Totally scream it from the rooftops. Yes, absolutely. Heather, thank you so much. As always, a great conversation. And hopefully people have listened and taken a little bit on board, got a few ideas. Maybe they're going to go and, start putting this into their team meetings. Perhaps they haven't done that before. Maybe they're going to go and get new t-shirts printed. Maybe they're not going to sell their school after all because they now realize how much they love it. I don't know. But I hope it's been of value and a great chat again. Thank you so much, Heather, for bringing your expertise and your lovely smile, of course. And
thank you so much.
We look forward to chatting to you again soon sometime. So I wanted to tell you that this episode is kindly sponsored by Sally at Dance Studio Marketing, who is your go-to solution for growing your dance school through the power of social media. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at trying to attract new students, at Dance Studio Marketing, Sally helps dance studio owners just like you to leverage the power of social media and paid ads to bring in a steady stream of students, which of course helps you to achieve more balance in your life. So if you're ready to grow with less stress, visit sallyprendergast.com, or you can connect with Sally at Dance Studio Marketing on your favorite social media platform today. My clients are getting fabulous results using Sally. So let's get those ads going and let's get your school growing.